And so when Eldridge Cleaver came to New York, I believe it was 1968. I believe it was the spring of '68. He came to New York and spoke. He was a presidential candidate on the Peace and Freedom Party, Black Panther Party ticket. The Peace and Freedom Party were a group of white radicals, progressive radicals, progressive white people who were against the Vietnam War, who were championing the rights of the human and civil rights of African people in the '60s. They grew out of the free speech movement in Berkeley, California, which had begun several years earlier. They had nominated Eldridge Cleaver as a presidential candidate at their convention earlier that year. So Eldridge Cleaver was traveling around the country as a Peace and Freedom presidential candidate, and he came to Fillmore Theater on the Lower East Side in New York, and he did a big rally there, and it was from that point that the Panthers began to take root in New York.
The Black Panther Party was a party for self-defense. We believed in self-defense. We believed in understanding our political rights. We went for what we call PE class, which was political education classes. In political education classes, we were advised and instructed to read the various papers of New York City, such as the New York Times, the Daily News, the Village Voice, any type of political newspaper, which was a new experience for me because I had no desire to read papers. I didn't join that organization to read papers. But as I became more involved in it, I began to learn a lot about myself, about the community, about what it is to be a Panther. It was an experience, the Black Panther Party itself was an experience that was fulfilling, it was rewarding, and very intriguing.
And they were so filled with purpose and mission. And people around here, they were used to seeing people without fear, because even during Bloody Sunday and the Civil Rights Movement, you had very courageous people here, even older people, who stood up against Jim Clark and demonstrated tremendous courage. But this was a different kind of courage. They knew that the people in the '60s had courage, but they were committed to nonviolence. And there was something about this new generation, this generation of soldiers and warriors that clearly spoke from the way they walked and moved, that I will not mess with you, but I am not the type of person that will let you violate me and my children and turn the other cheek. They had that spirit, and when they walked, it exuded. And I do remember one incident that they told me about. I wasn't there. That Ray and his wife, who was white, and Sundiata, they were somewhere, and someone made comment about that interracial marriage. And on the spot, they made it clear, if you mess with us, you will regret it. And they backed off of them just immediately, because they were not used to black people standing up to fear. And they made it clear to them through their words and their body language, we are not the people that were on that bridge where you could beat and even kill, like people like Jimmy Lee Jackson, a young black man that was killed here. And the response was a Christian response, to love your enemies. We will march, but we will not violate you physically. When they killed Viola Luzzo, we want them prosecuted, and these people were most times not prosecuted. There was no justice in the courts, and just as their predecessors, their white predecessors who used terror and hangings to keep blacks in their place, to deliver Southern justice, these brothers made it clear through their actions, through their demeanor, that if you harm us, there will be a physical result. And because they exuded that type of courage, not violence, self-defense courage, the willingness to defend our women, our families, our communities, it's extraordinary that people around here didn't mess with them.
There was several parts to that community, because I know he did some work down in Boca Chica, where I think he was embraced great more. He did some work here, and some people embraced him. Most folks just kind of ignored him and just went on about their business. But they wasn't just ignoring him; they was ignoring me too, and the rest of us. So there was not a real movement in Selma at that particular time, and he was working to develop that movement. And I believe if he had been able to stay longer, he would have helped to develop that kind of movement.
Well, what the call said, we was trying to get freedom. See, when the Freedom Riders come out of New York? Oh Lord, y'all got when the Freedom Riders come out New York, but that's where it started. I think it started from New York. I'm not sure. But when the Freedom Riders come through here, going down, going south. But now they stopped in Selma. They're coming through Selma, and that's why all the white folks got confused. See, they didn't know where they're gonna hit at. All right, and the next thing, here come Dr. King come up. The Brown Chapel Church was in Selma, Brown Chapel. That's Dr. Martin Luther King.
April 1st, 1969, that was the beginning of New York Panther 21 trial. That's when they unsealed, they meaning New York State Police and New York City Police, Bureau of Special Services, and COINTELPRO unsealed a sealed secret indictment against the Black Panther Party, New York chapter, specifically Harlem branch, precisely. That indictment included a whole host of charges, from allegations of alleged efforts to kill police officers, bomb police stations, blow up botanical gardens, Abercrombie and French, which was a high-class store on Fifth Avenue, Long Island Railroad. It was a whole host of outrageous alleged targets that they said the Black Panther Party, members of the Black Panther Party Harlem branch had targeted.